Fucking well, I'm watching now. Thanks for reminding me.
Okay, you know what? Welcome to the Checkpoint podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're covering why video game movies are bad. So we're gonna talk over why are live-action video game movies bad, how they could have been better, and how can they be better. I've had these guys go through reading material. Everyone can stay in. It's totally chill. Wait, Alex, are you still playing the game? Alex?
Which one?
Crystar?
Yep.
Oh, you guys are still playing it. Okay, good shit.
Oh no, I mean Matt left, so I'm just doing whatever. I popped in to say hello.
Lols, okay.
You can cut this, Alejandro.
It's fine. We're already recording. No, yeah. So, if no one has any, what agenda do you guys want? Like,
well, I know we could stick with the original topic. That's pretty cool too. I was now know if as the discussion leader, how you want to maintain like the questions and how you want to go through the
So
that
the
order.
agenda is just a guideline. It's never like a set in stone thing.
I think for right now it's fine. The itinerary, we can do that.
Yeah, we can deviate however you guys want. There's like no rule set anything. And honestly, like, okay, I'll tell you guys this. I know none of us, except for maybe Dax and Kayas and Christian and Justin. So that's just me. I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. So I'm just going for comedy. So if anyone wants to provide good info, you're more than welcome to.
So we're turning this into an open forum now?
It's always been open.
It's
yes.
an open forum about movies, I guess. I'm not sure.
Alright.
Movies and video games.
Okay, so I guess
Mike,
anything.
Let's test
I
this.
can at least start with we can start with the favorite one. I liked Detective Pikachu, despite what critics say.
Howdy.
I personally thought that Detective Pikachu was a beautifully designed movie, and like I know a lot of people really didn't like the way the Pokemon looked. I thought it was great. The film itself, though, like the story was terrible. It was boring.
Like it was just fine, or like it just was like a standard movie. Like what was the problem?
And was it based off of like off the story of the game? Like I'm not sure what it was.
Not really.
From.
So it was indeed based off the Detective Pikachu video game storyline. That's what Detective Pikachu the movie was actually based off of.
Oh,
like,
so like
stick to
100%?
No, not 100%. It's slightly modified.
Okay, I think that's fine, but like, yeah, it was still pretty boring.
I'd say it was age appropriate for the target audience they wanted.
Kind of, because like at the beginning of the movie, they were talking about insurance firm stuff, and I'm like, who is this for?
It's like trade routes in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Hey, insurance in the Pokemon world. Someone's gotta have it. Team Rocket be fucking things up.
Yeah,
How they managed to relocate
He sounds
Ryan
terrible.
Reynolds'
Mike.
Yeah, I think at least for as far as Detective Pikachu goes, I'm not a huge stickler for objectivity like in movies. I simply want to be entertained, but in a sensible way. And to me, Detective Pikachu did that. I got to see how Pikachu, like Pokemon, interacted in like a real world setting, and it felt like it was believable a little way, like how the Snorlax was in the middle of the road, how the Machop was directing traffic. That was cool. Those little details, things about the insurance and stuff like that, didn't really bother me too much. But yeah, I liked it overall. I'm not gonna be a critic and give it like a score or anything, but
I know I haven't seen too much of the film. I've only seen like clips, but it seems like it has the best like world building of any game like movie. I don't know. I got really invested in it just by looking at like pausing the screen and seeing like the signs and like different restaurants and businesses that exist in this world.
Right, like in terms of setting, it definitely blew me out of the water. In terms of the plot, probably could have been better. I mean, it didn't really amaze me that the whole thing, spoilers here, that it was all about like turning into the Pokemon or like some evil rich dude trying to get immortality by being a Mewtwo, which is like, all right, there's not much you can do with like a Pokemon movie.
I agree with that.
I've seen the original Pokemon movies, and they're like, it's hard to translate into a cinematic experience that's good for like a general audience.
Yeah,
It's
agreed.
very much for that niche.
I agree with that. Yeah, like I didn't go expecting a grade A, theatric Emmy award-winning story. I went to see cool Pokemans. I got cool Pokemans.
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it.
And just on that alone, it's good. And I'm not sure what the box office returns were, but I'm sure it made its money back. But I don't think any movie should be like its success should be based on how well it does in the box office, but more or less a combination of overall.
So Detective
reception.
Pikachu got 67% on Rotten Tomatoes, made 150 mil for as a budget. That was Detective Pikachu's budget, and 431 million as the box office returns. So it had 400% ish return. Like not 400%, around there. Like 300% or so. Yeah, math is hard, dude. That's why. That's why
I think we should actually all speak about like our favorite video game movie. That's a good one to bring up.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys just want to go into like introductions? Like, let's just introduce everyone.
Say who you are and what your favorite movie is.
Oh, favorite movie or favorite video game?
So let's go with So let's go with favorite video game movie. The video game you feel would have been an outstanding movie that has not yet been made into a movie, and one reason why you feel current live-action video game movies are bad, or just video game movies in general are bad even. So I will go first. My favorite video game movie is Detective Pikachu. Video game I feel would have been an outstanding movie is The Division, which I understand they're making one. And one reason why I feel live-action video game movies are bad are just because we're not playing them. That's my thing. That's it.
We're not playing them? What do you mean?
We're not in them. Like it's a different experience. We don't have
because
as much.
We're not controlling the character. We're watching it from
we don't
some
have
other
as
set
much.
point.
We're a captive audience.
Yeah, we don't have as much stakes in the movie.
Yeah, that was the argument for like the Hitman video you linked. Saying like Hitman's just a person we just jump into and we start killing shit. And
yeah, that's when like we're actually immersed in the story as a player. But when you're watching it, you're not in the same spot.
Yeah,
like,
and
you're
even
just watching someone with their own story, with their own history, with their own background.
Yeah, to go into that, there's a lot of like context in games that makes parts of the narrative more enjoyable, like little details, little things you do in it that makes the rest of the story a bit more cohesive and more to connect with. But if you condense that into like a 2 to 3 hour movie, it gets fucking weird, Like
it kind of goes into this. I was going to talk about immersion and like embedded narrative. Yeah, so I feel like we're kind of tangenting from like an intro, but one of the problems I feel that with these people translating the game into a film is that immersion narrative isn't there. That story that the player has to tell about their time playing the game isn't there, which I think is half, if not even more so, the reason people play games, because of the story they create by playing and interacting.
Yes.
When you're watching just plot points go on, it's less interesting than to just watch
just a movie,
another person play the game.
Right. I think that's like very apparent in like the World of Warcraft movie, I think, because at some point they kept jumping around from like setting to setting, and while that was cool and all, there was nothing really connecting all those settings to like an overall plot or like a desire to want to see the character keep moving to each scene. I know in like a game, if World of Warcraft was single player, I'd have a reason to go to each of these areas that we're going to and to figure out like the story or narrative or the quest objective in those particular areas.
Especially the fact that you would probably be the one playing those different characters, right?
Yeah, and making it happen on your own and definitely getting a sense of what these little details.
Ownership. There we go. Yeah, getting at ownership. I feel you.
And getting
you want to?
Oh sure. I don't know what the exact structure was.
So favorite video game movie, video game you feel would have been a good movie, and one reason why you feel current video game movies are bad, or good or bad, whichever.
Sure.
We swing either way.
I mean, I already said Detective Pikachu, but I also had like Final Fantasy 15 as as one of my other favorite ones. Mainly because like I really the live action, well not live action, it was Uncanny Valley. That's how it felt to me.
The CG movie?
Yeah, it was CG, but like looking at these dudes, like man, these could easily be real people if I was if I was a little bit drunk.
Kingsglaive.
There you go, Kingsglaive.
Yeah, Kingsglaive, and it was like a little prologue to like the overall movie, and you give a little backstory to how shit gets messed up. And I think it was a great movie overall in terms of just like a cinematic experience and just like overall the awe factor. Story-wise, it probably could have been better, like most stories could, like most game movies can be. Like there's context and like things you just can't condense into like an hour or two of movie time. But overall, it was a great experience.
But as I understand, Kingsglaive is actually it doesn't retell the Final Fantasy 15 story, right? Like it's a different.
No, it just gives you a little. It gives you a little glimpse as to what's happening in the city, like before the main game takes place.
It's like supplemental story to the actual game.
Yeah,
that's so movie in its own right.
If the game came with a Blu-ray disc of watch this before you play the game, then you'd be like, oh, now I see why they're doing this. But it doesn't take away from like the rest of the game. You can completely go into the game without having that movie knowledge. It's just really cool to have, really cool to see.
Ooh, okay.
And like, it was the first time I saw a movie that realistic to like actual people.
Have you seen Beowulf?
I've seen Beowulf. And,
Yeah,
like,
that's all animated. I
impressed.
thought that was live action. Shit.
I could tell that there was a look to it that I knew that these guys aren't real. The models are showing the animation things, but when you go into Final Fantasy 15, I can see the pores on their skin.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I can see the way the lighting works and the way like they react and little facial movements they make. That's what made it feel like super real, and I was a little bit uncomfortable most of the time. It's just so painfully, in there. But it could have been better in many ways. But a movie I do want to see, a game that I do want to see adapted into a movie is, it's between one of two things: Horizon Zero Dawn, because I'm sure you could definitely make that narrative into a 2.5 hour sort of movie, and it'll keep the amaze factor up of having these robot dinosaurs and all the athleticism from like the main character interacting with the world, within that movie and within that time frame.
I feel you.
Definitely a good way to do it. And you can usually fuck it up, but like, I really hope you don't. Like, I think the game's narrative is good enough. Like, out of like many game stories, like this is one of like the top ones. I would put in the same alignment with like Uncharted or like God of War. Definitely in like the high narrative rating. The other one would be Twisted Metal, because we got Mad Max. Why not just reskin it and call it Twisted Metal?
I just feel that if they make a Horizon Zero Dawn game, they better not skip out on the graphics, dude. Like all the robotic monsters needs to be shown beautifully. Like I do not want Bollywood to touch this game. Do not let Bollywood touch this fucking game.
Unfortunately, the producer for that game died, so you may not get that for a while.
Wait, are you serious? Oh, I didn't.
Yeah. So I know the producer in charge of that game, and I think also Killzone or something.
Oh no.
Maybe, but he the producer for Horizon Zero Dawn died, and it's like, man, that
shit.
sucks. Side note, we'll never get it, and if it's ever gonna be translated into a cinematic experience, they can't interface with that dude because he's fucking.
Oh man, at least he's not the owner of it, but rip, that's sad.
Not the owner, but he's definitely the creative producer, and that's a great driving force into saying what stays and what goes. And that's unfortunate that we won't be getting anything like that anytime soon. Wow. And I love Horizon Zero Dawn. Think it'd be made into a good game. Like, we got what's a close enough movie to Horizon Zero Dawn? I'll say Mario.
You mean a movie that's out or a game?
I'd say a game, like or anything like a narrative with the same amount.
There's not a lot. Like Horizon. That's why Horizon Zero Dawn is so special. It's so unique.
Yeah, there's not too many ones like that. And the other game could be Twisted Metal, because I fucking love Twisted Metal. And if you have there are movies, there's Need for Speed, Fast and Furious, you got Mad Max. I'm sure you could bundle them all in one thing. There's even one called Death Racing or something, Death Race. And it's like there's so many car movies with action and shit. I'm sure you could make a Twisted Metal spin-off and people would be like, yeah, I'll fuck with it.
That'd be sick. Christian, your favorite video game movie
game? He actually didn't say why he thinks that video game movies are bad or good.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna move on. We don't have time. Time to move on.
I don't even know what the time limit is.
We'll get to that part later when we actually talk about why we think it doesn't work.
Yes.
It's very redundant. That being said, my favorite game movie has to be House of the Dead. If you guys have seen it, if you guys know if you guys know really bad 360 shots of slow motion bad actors, it's like a perfect movie to watch at the end of the night when you're just tired and need something bad to laugh at.
How bad is it?
I agree.
I've only heard that it's really bad. Like when
I'm gonna fix this in like a month. We're gonna sit down and watch it, and then you'll be like, how did this get made? How is he not arrested?
It's Germany, man. You can get away with it. Tax laws.
Like, see, when I heard that this was a thing, I was actually sad because I was like, I like the series. Like, this is the arcade series that everyone plays.
Is it similar to Silent Hill?
No, it's nothing like Silent Hill.
It's the game.
I would actually say Silent Hill, the first one, is a better movie, but this is like a funner movie to watch, House of the Dead, because it's just so bad. In terms of what game I think would be a good movie, it has to be Brutal Legend. Just because the main protagonist is Jack Black.
Yeah. Oh man, that whole rock.
It's just gonna be a really fun animated movie about metal, like fictional world, and blood and guts and like really cool music.
I could definitely see him on the same level of like insanity as like Scott Pilgrim. The way.
Oh yeah, it's gonna hit that same vibe. Like when you're
That
like
vibe
using
to
a
it.
guitar in an axe of fight. Imagine like a really well choreographed like action scene. If you haven't seen like Spider-Verse yet,
Funny enough, I just watched it
Give it,
today.
like, a metal
Me, Jaco, and
edge,
Marlon
and
just
be
watched that
epic.
today. Funny enough.
It's a good movie.
It's a great movie. God damn. Sorry, continue, Christian. I interrupted you.
yeah. Well, those are that's my picks. You guys can go move on.
Oh shit. Dax, your turn.
All right. My favorite video game movie is Pokemon, the first movie.
Oh.
It's great.
Not live action. Got it.
No, yeah, that one. Like I remember as a kid, I cried when Ash was like turned into stone. I'm like,
Everyone's
so sad.
my aunt I took to go watch that movie. She probably had no idea what was going on.
It was so sad. I remember like continuously crying after that when I was a kid. It's a good movie. I haven't watched it in a while. I don't want to watch it because I don't want it to go bad. You know?
Didn't they
You don't want reality.
Yeah, I
You don't want to see the
reality.
truth.
No.
I swear they remade it or something.
Yeah.
And
They are. It's like a CG remake they're making.
Are they?
the movie.
Oh, they are making a remake of Pokemon the first movie, aren't they?
I totally watched it.
They better do it with like the
HD.
newer looking Ash that looks like he's actually 10.
Oh yeah, that one, the new animated style. That one looks cool.
Yeah,
Oh no
too
no
bad
no!
all
It's
Pokemon
this
look-
one. It's actually kind of like clay animation almost.
Oh, what the
CG.
fuck?
It's a little
Okay,
funky.
that's a baddie.
It's a little funky.
That is funky. that's really jarring. I don't know if I enjoy it. That looks like you know, like the chibi version of Final Fantasy. Want that chibi game?
Yeah, but that's cute though. That's its own style, right?
This is just kind of gross.
I mean, just looks more
Ash looks
racist. than that.
Mexican.
Might be good.
Is that just me?
We'll
Looks
see.
so Hispanic.
And the video game that I would actually like to see as a movie, it's a weird subject, and I'll bring it up later as to the whole entire like why video game movies can be better. It's either Fallout
Ooh.
or H1Z1 or DayZ. But there are caveats to each of these, and I'll bring it up later once we bring up the subject of
Two of them
Why?
are a zombie game.
there's reasons why. But I'll bring up once we get it. Or do you want to? No, wait. We have Regulus, and then John Cho. I think
Cho,
you said?
yeah.
J Cho. Okay. So go on, Regulus.
Alright, so I'm Regulus, everyone, and I'm pretty much my favorite movie is going to be the Resident Evil series.
Oh, which one?
Live
there
action,
are
live
seven of them.
Oh, live action.
There are seven of them.
Well, if you want me to pick a live action, I like both. I like both the animated and the live action.
Which live action one? There are seven of them.
I want
And
you
they're all
to
rated
I'd say
differently.
Apocalypse is probably my favorite one of all of them, though.
Oh.
They're all the same movie, essentially.
No,
It
no,
is
no, no,
essentially is.
no. The first one is so different from the rest in a sense.
It is. It is. The first one is an investigation, and everything else is just slaughterfest. So
You know,
Yeah.
they're just kind of like semi-superhuman zombie fights, right?
a lot. Well, because of Resident Evil's tyrants, and we'll get to that if we ever just try to discuss this in detail. But definitely, that would be my favorite
Cool.
movie. And as for the one game that I want to be turned into a movie, Last of Us has to be a movie.
It kind of is already, you know.
I feel like it's just gonna be like a lot of like cutscenes put together from the game. I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah, it wasn't like the main driving force, like watching their relationship build up from the ground up. Like you have
No,
to
but
go
I
through
want
the first 10 minutes
live
of watching
action
his daughter
version.
die.
I want a live
Bonding.
action. I want a live action prequel just to know how they got this
Oh,
to this
that'd be
state,
good.
or
So
some
so-
other.
I know they got live action people to play those characters. Who plays the main character Joel in like real life with like the face capture?
Christian, I feel you might know this, right?
Oh, you mean the live capture?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they got
That's,
live capture people to play this, so it's like you might as well
Nolan
grab it.
North and dang it.
it's not Nolan North.
No, I know. No, it's not Nolan North, but they have literally a
Troy
game
Baker.
count, yeah.
Troy Baker.
Troy
I'm
Ba-
looking at it now. Yeah.
Troy Baker, yes, you're
Troy
right.
Baker. Oh,
Yeah,
voice.
so you can just
also voiced by
grab
Troy
those
Baker.
guys.
Yeah.
You can just pop those guys in.
Yep, but
Yeah.
that's definitely something I want to see. It's gonna be amazing.
Are you saying you don't want Jake Gyllenhaal as Joel? Come on, man.
No,
I just want Mysterio as Joel.
Lol.
I like Jake Gyllenhaal a lot. He's just a good-looking man. He's
I
the
was
kind of man
like
I
in
like
Prince
to
of Persia.
scream.
I did not appreciate
Welcome
that.
to the Jake Gyllenhaal podcast, where we just talk about Jake Gyllenhaal and how great he is.
That sounds concerning.
Justin, are you here? Justin!
I guess he's
talking to
moved.
Jake Gyllenhaal right now.
JJ!
God damn it, he's not here.
You think we get Jake Gyllenhaal to sponsor this?
All right. Well,
I guess we've lost
yeah.
Throbbing Cho
Well,
for this
We'll
podcast.
come back to him when he comes back.
He's watching Evil right now.
Hey, that Evil is taking away all our viewership, man.
It's
All
cool.
our-
We have 5 people. We're good.
Lol.
All right. Do you guys want to get to the subject of how video game movies can be better, or?
I mean, sure. I have a good and bad.
Yeah, let's
So
let's
the
just
bad-
how about like we pick up like a bad, like an actual, just a standard bad video game movie and just talk about how that could be better.
a bad video. Give me a lot of choices here.
That's like 80% of them, or 90% of them.
Yeah,
you
that's very general right now.
So the one that
Alright,
we
what's
could
the
talk
movie
about
we've
is
all
like,
seen?
the one that we've all seen.
So what's a common issue with all these video game movies?
For me,
Bad.
the biggest thing, and it's the reason why I would like to see H1Z1, Fallout, and all those as a movie, is because they stick so much to the source material that they don't ever diverge. Like, that's why Resident Evil 1 to me is a pretty good movie, because they diverge. And that's the thing, you don't want to see the same thing happen in a screen. You want to see something different, a divergence. Like, let's say Resident Evil 2, alright? The game. It's cool that you're seeing the perspective of Leon and Claire, but in a sense, in that game, both of their stories are happening at the same time, even though that's not possible. So what I would like to see of a movie of it is a divergence. One of them is the true, and the other one is the not. So let's say Claire is inside the police station. We're seeing, instead of watching Claire through the normal game, we're seeing outside what Leon has to do to survive. That seems like a more interesting movie. I want to see divergence rather than staying with the source.
So you just want
Keep
more
looking
liberal
about the movie
takes
divergence.
on like
Every time
the
you-
direction of a movie.
You both talked at the same time, one at a time. Buck loud, you go.
All right, so you wanted you want the directors to take inspiration from the original source, but for them to take their own cinematic twist into the movie.
Yes, honestly, because just like how Hitman was, I've heard, I never saw it, admittingly, alright? But I've heard that the reason why the movie is really bad is because they try to do the way it is. They try to put it exactly like how the game is. This character's boring, and they're trying to have cool kills. Sure, cool kills only limits you for a certain amount of time.
Right, and that really, and like a movie like that works with John Wick when there's really nothing before it, and you can already show this guy killing everything in this cool way.
Exactly.
Yeah, and John Wick, and he has a good character, someone we can relate to. Hitman, can't relate to him.
Mhm.
Dude, with the barcode in the back.
And I think Regulus, you brought something up to.
So pretty much I just think the reason why many people kind of take issue with this is just the fact that you're kind of like a captive audience. Like if you're playing a video game, you basically have control over the protagonist or someone important to the story that basically drives you to want to know what you should do and how the story progresses. The fact that the movie kind of restricts that by letting someone else take the reins, it's kind of like watching someone else play a game. So that's why it's kind of a problematic thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, so that's why Resident Evil did do a good job in that end. Because if I talk about both the animated and the live action version, they talk about completely different stories that are in the same universe but outside of all the games. It's not really a repeat. Now, granted that some of it is sort of like a repeat, because you can arguably say the second live action Resident Evil movie is Resident Evil 2, except with different characters. They still made a different twist to it. Like they made like the same narrative go through, but at least they modified in such a way where it's like I don't recognize it as much as the game, so I don't have to complain about it as much.
Now, a quick question: was the newest Lara Croft movie exactly like the game?
I did not watch that.
I think it depends on which version of Lara Croft.
The newest
Oh,
one.
Tomb Raider?
Yeah,
Let me look at it right
the one where she's like getting destroyed at every corner and like totally mess up, breathing underwater for an hour, impaled
Oh,
and
that
still
new
surviving.
one? Yeah, I never saw it.
I don't know who played her, but I liked it. I don't know how faithful it is to the original. Yeah, that one right there. How faithful it is to.
It's more in line with the
build off
I
of.
guess the reboot, the one that came out in like 2012 or 2013.
Yeah.
And it's fine. It has like a 52 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's okay. It does not stand out.
52 on
Actually,
Rotten Tomatoes, 274 million box office, but 100 million budget. So it's about twice, 1.5 times its budget in terms of returns. Sorry, continue.
I think that goes into like what my issue is with these types of games. I haven't seen the movie at all, but I think the main issue is that there's a lot of context with each narrative that a game has, and it's challenging to effectively translate that into cinematic experience because they're both wildly separate things. Like take Marvel Comics and cinematic universe. Like Marvel Comics in itself, there's way too much bullshit in like in any series of comics to fit into like an hour or 2 hour experience.
But yet they
Cinematic
do
universe
it,
took
right? Like they still do it. They still make it work.
They make it work because they don't take like every little thing from the comic and translate it into the cinematic thing. They separate that into movies itself, and they bring out they bring a more character focused.
It's much more selective about how much comic
more
bullshit
controlled.
they do.
It's less like information dumping, and they plan that shit out over like 4 fucking phases and 10 to 15 years. That's what it takes for like Marvel Comics to translate all that narrative into this. You need something similar on a much smaller scale though for like games to work. I can't imagine like Horizon Zero Dawn being like 4 movies, but you can definitely try to make that into like a 2-3 hour, 2 maybe 3 hour type of movie.
And I think, go on.
Nothing, that's it.
I think also the thing that works with it, and a thing that a lot of video game movies do not do, and I'll even bring up an example. They don't go with what our expectations of the source kind of is. Like, sure, there's games that have a lot of, serious moments in it, but they also have comedy too, small, subtle hints. Like, let me give you an example. I just watched today Dead Rising. I think it was like Death Watch or something watch. It was a live action movie. It was bad. And the reason why is because they were staying so serious the whole entire time, having only small hints of humor, that they missed the point. Yes, exactly. Watchtower. That's
This
my
shit.
watch. Yep,
This
that's
is a movie?
When did this
Yes.
come out? I've never
You
even
got
heard
me
of this.
fucked up. No.
What is
I
this?
found out about it today from the list. I
Is this even
watched
the
it.
one where he's at the mall?
No,
Oh my god.
Oh, this is a direct to video. Wow, 2015.
that's not.
2016.
It's not Frank West though. That's the thing, and that's the kind of thing. They went Divergence, which was nice, but they stuck serious the whole time, and that's not what Dead Rising is. Dead Rising is about being a freaking derp. I can't say the R word, and just doing dumb things. Yeah, doing dumb things.
Considering one boss in one of the Dead Rising games had huge notes of sexual innuendos, yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Exactly,
I think I saw a cutscene of Frank West in a Mega Man suit while going through like a serious-ish cutscene. in
Yeah,
Dead Rising.
and they were being serious the entire time. They had only some jokes, and it was literally like they showed a character who played Frank West, and some of the jokes were good, but they didn't do the dumb things. They had the basics of what the Dead Rising formula is: zombies, some psychos, crafting weapons together, and that's it. And they
Zombieland is more like what Dead Rising should have been.
exactly, and that's the kind of thing. Divergence and doing something different. They could have literally put Zombieland, Dead Rising, and nobody would have complained. Nobody would have, because it's so in a sense similar to how it's supposed to be the comedy, and that's why Dead Rising Watchtower is a bad movie and you shouldn't watch it. And I can't regret it. It was like almost 2 hours. Oh my god.
2 hours.
Wasted 2 hours of her life. Yeah.
You could replace it with a funny zombie movie, like most zombie movies are. Speaking of which, Zombieland 2 is coming out, which I should watch at some point.
Dax, can you go a little more into detail what you mean by divergence exactly? Because it sounds like what you're describing based on Dead Rising. Like, it does sound like there is a divergence, just not enough. Is that it? Like, I'm just trying to understand.
I feel like it's just going down a different path. It's like Divergence in a shitty way.
I think it diverted way too seriously is the thing that he's trying to point out here.
I would actually
So
argue
being
that
divergent but in a shitty way.
that's still not enough, because if you look at the Postal games or the Postal movie that Uwe also made, it is supposed to be kind of like a raunchy comedy. Like it begins with like what is it? Like a really bad joke about 9/11.
Ooh.
Which is one, usually not really good taste, but yeah, that is like the type of humor of the game. I feel like I got to go back to the MCU example and think like they have to be selective with the elements they choose, but really just kind of make it its own thing. And I guess that's
the MCU.
what
What other good examples would there be?
do you guys know about Mortal Kombat Rebirth?
Wait, let me see.
Yes.
I only know the first one, Annihilation. Is that a movie?
Mortal
not a
Kombat
movie.
Rebirth. It is a short film.
Yeah.
A short.
Yes.
Never saw it, unfortunately.
It's a short film on YouTube from 2010. The guy who made it, I think he went on to make the Castlevania anime. Oh, no, he didn't. My bad. Essentially, it's like someone's version of
Holy fuck, he's ugly.
in like
Oh god. He's got synthol injections on his forehead.
interesting. They kind of like twist the mythology and they reinterpret it in a different way.
Your forehead has
still
titties.
similar in taking tropes from the game, but they're kind of doing like they're not sticking to it. They're being independent of the game in some way, in most ways actually.
And yeah, I can agree with that. And that's what I'm meaning. Like, they're sticking to certain things, but they're changing the core aspect of it. Like, let's say, okay, Dead Space 2. Have any of you guys ever played Dead Space 2?
Yep, I'm too
Yes.
scared to ever play it.
Okay. Dead Space 2, I think,
Dead Space
could
in
become
general.
a good movie, depending on how they do things. If they try to stay as a scary movie, I don't think they'll, in a sense, make it great. Because Dead Space 2, to me, wasn't that scary of a game. It was a fun action game. It had some subtle, scary moments, such as, like, the raptor enemy. But the divergence that I would mean is, let's say, in the game, you meet a female engineer called Ellie. Something happens to Isaac, and in the movie, you're seeing Ellie's perspective of how she goes through the sprawl. I think that's what the ship was, and that's the kind of thing that I would like from movies. They have the core aspect, they go with certain things, and then they break off.
And I think that actually comes down to like taste, because with Dead Space, all I understand from Dead Space from watching the cutscenes is dread and intensity. If they hone in on that on Dead Space, I'd as a consumer would want to see that, and want to see that as the divergence.
So that's-
maybe another component of your
Yeah, that
argument
could
would
be,
just what everyone else
instead
has
of it
found.
being focused simply on the action, it could be a psychological thriller, and that's the divergence.
Yeah, so I think
it's a whole entire.
it may come down to like preference at that point too.
So
And that's why, divergence can mean so many things, and that's why I agree with you. It's a very vague and broad subject, but, that's because you can do so many things with a movie besides sticking with the source material.
Can I add to that and say
Go ahead.
execution would be an approach is maybe more important. I'm looking at the Lego movie as an example, where it's almost a meta story about like creating toys and playing, and like the seriousness of like a fiction. And there's like they don't take themselves too seriously. They understand it's like toys, and they have fun with the mythology of what they're working with.
Only true gamers play Lego. Okay.
But I guess I feel like looking at other films that have done something similar to that and played around with their loose with their tropes or play with their tropes or understand like what the source material is and use that as like a platform to like elevate and move comedic, action, dramatic elements forward would be the way to move about. It's just like it's hard to, I guess, take that from a game where it's not everyone's experiencing the same things. Everyone has a unique experience playing the game. Some people, again, one person plays Dead Space, it's an action game. The other person, it's a horror game because they just can't handle that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another level of difficulty in translating something that's interactive to something that's passive or more passive.
right.
And that's why I think that DayZ, H1Z1, and even Fallout could be great movies. Because rather than focusing on, there's, blah blah blah, like Fallout. Oh, they're going with the source material. No, you could have a specific time that's happening in the universe, such as even like in DayZ, you could have a whole entire story of somebody surviving in the world all the way up until they're betrayed and then switching perspectives, that kind of thing. That's what I want. I want stories rather than a focused story and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of games that offer like a good narrative to work on instead of just watching what the main character does, like in like.
That sounds like a really fun art film.
So if you're basically looking for kind of how Star Wars is handling it, the quote-unquote expanded universe or whatever portion it's pulling it from. Kind of like how the Death Star was found with that movie. You kind of want, because there's stuff like that, like Forward Unto Dawn, which is like part of Halo.
I was going to bring that up, yeah. Forward Unto Dawn is pretty good, in my opinion. Even though it wasn't like, amazing, the way they brought it up, cadets training up, eventually the whatever, I forgot, the aliens, the Covenant came, and they saw Master Chief. Sure, that's cool, but for me, I think it would be really cool if games, rather than just always focusing on movies, it could focus on miniseries too, because miniseries are pretty popular too.
Right, and that brings on to the point that I want to bring up, is that there's so much potential. I think about stuff like Warhammer 40k and how expansive that thing is, like a story that's been going on for like 30, 40 years, or I don't know, not 40, just a long time with a lot of material to use. You don't just have to stick to like the popular thing that everyone sees. You can just read part of the book and be like, I'm gonna make a movie about this little two sentences right here.
You can make literally a movie on Warhammer 40k, a tabletop game, like like a tabletop pen and paper, like a game that happens, because that's really cool. Same thing with miniseries. You could have a bunch of miniseries of Warhammer 40k of different stories that people have had in their 40k. Like literally, the introduction is people describing their tabletop game, and then it cuts off into Warhammer 40k, how they're dressed up and role playing in a sense. Obviously, a little more dramatized. But those could be really, really interesting miniseries.
Yeah, that's how I felt like the Assassin's Creed movies should have been. Like, there's so much you could do with each character, and they did pick something different, definitely. But like, they executed it in such a bad way that they diverged.
Has anyone here seen Castlevania, the Netflix anime?
Yeah, that's a great adaptation.
Yeah, that was like honestly the best, not like linear, passive media based off a video game that's ever been made.
Yeah, it stayed true to the main series, but they took a lot of liberties in how to get there.
I think this actually builds off of what Dax is saying too. It takes a small chunk of the entire Castlevania series. It just, I don't even know. I think it takes one of the 20 games.
I think it just takes like the beginning.
Yeah. Like it just takes one of the games that Castlevania has, and even then it takes like a small part of it, and then it makes like a full series, like a full 24 episode series out of it. It was done really
2 seasons
well.
Actually.
Yeah.
2 seasons.
Yeah, so 24 episodes, right? Yeah.
In a mini-series that I would love to absolutely see, it will probably never ever happen because one, they don't even want to make a second game of it. But a mini-series I would love, Spec Ops: The Line. That would be an amazing.
Oh,
exactly.
That would be
They're focusing on the game. They're focusing on the psychological
aspect about killing. Yeah,
exactly.
Imagine how
you killed that dude?
amazing.
You got a family.
Man, if they're gonna do that, they're basically gonna turn it into Heart of Darkness, and that's pretty cool.
They could never make a movie of that, but a mini-series that could be
kind of was.
experimented
It
on.
was like it wasn't that Brad Pitt movie, The Sniper, a little bit like that? Because like there's some points that I saw it and I was like, man, I feel bad for that dude's family.
The Sniper, let me see.
Yeah, with Brad Pitt, like
Bradley
I think even in the trailer they like focused in on like, the
Cooper?
collateral damage of like messing with killing like terrorists. But
You mean American Sniper, right?
American Sniper. That
American
one. Yeah.
Sniper, okay.
Brad Pitt buff as shit for that movie.
Oh wait, no, that's still Bradley Cooper. That's not Brad Pitt. Wait.
Whatever.
It's a certain type of Brad.
It's one of the Brads. Shut up, they all bulk up, they look the same.
That
They don't both look
dude
the
with
same.
the blue eyes and the blonde beard. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that's not big.
And that's what I think movies a lot of times, unless they're going for specific things like the stories, they're not really a good fit for video games. But miniseries, those could go really well, but it also depends on how they're focusing it. You know,
I can think of
like
a few games that would never make good movies or even mini shows.
sure.
One
Let's say
would be
one.
Arts.
Oh God, no.
Never make that.
Like
I would love
Right. I'll just be sad. As a longtime fan, I just wouldn't even advocate for it. I do the opposite of a crowdfund. I would steal money whenever it was put in somehow.
I have a quick question. Has anyone here seen King of Kong?
King of Kong.
King of
Yes.
Kong? The fuck is
This is
this?
a documentary about the competition to
Oh,
get the
that
highest
one.
score in Donkey Kong. If we're using like, you know, games, movies, and being a little looser, I think stuff that's kind of about movies or the human stories of people around games and their experience of the subculture is actually like a more successful place because you have like character arcs of individuals interact with the game, and then you kind of can relate to them because of your own experience playing games. It's a different approach. Instead of adapting a fiction, you're adapting the experience of interacting with a game.
I mean, Tron would be along those lines, right?
I
I mean, it's not on a game, but it's based on, you know, the whole.
I probably have to
like,
watch King of
you know-
Kong to get an understanding. Like,
King of Kong is like a documentary about people. Tron
Oh,
is
okay,
a documentary about computers.
Yeah. Documentary about the dark web. Sure. Tron has seen all the worst parts of the internet. Just go through.
No,
The
it's-
users are the best. No, they're not. Tron. No,
A lot of interesting like drama between people, and I feel like that's almost a place that maybe, as we talked about, like how to make a good video game movie, maybe just focus less on the actual game itself and the people that experience it and what it means to them and how they go about their lives interacting with it. A recent film I saw, actually, it's another documentary about the making of For Honor.
Oh.
It's on Netflix. I'm looking for the name of it.
Oh, right, that fighting game.
For Honor documentary.
I think
Yeah.
NoClip would be a good resource for that. They do a lot of documentaries.
Oh no, this is like an independent. It's called Playing Hard. It has an 88 user rating, I believe, in some cases. But it's just like the making of a game and the people involved in it, and just like the process of, oh, we're gonna announce it on E3. Here's a recital. Here's like the goals and the meanings of the game and the emotional arcs of people who make it. And
Yeah.
I think because it's not focusing on the game itself. The game is like kind of just the setting almost. It's more about the people who are interacting and growing as they make something. I think that's
Yeah.
a cool avenue to maybe focus on that may make more successful game movies. I'm
Yeah,
using
so I
that
think
term.
So
God
maybe
of War documentary
like a game dev
good for that.
movie. Is that what you're thinking?
No, it's just more like people that are interactive games. Like Scott Pilgrim, I feel like would be another example.
Oh.
Because it plays with tropes and stories and like game lore, game fiction,
Mhm.
but it's like a story of people and
So,
like their
Jumanji.
Yeah, Jumanji. Yeah, probably the first video game movie that was good. I mean, actually, it was not like it was a fun movie.
Yeah, I just used Jumanji as a catalyst to build all these character relationships. Not that Jumanji, damn it. The first one.
I mean, that one's actually straight up about a retro video game.
The first one was
You're
bad.
thinking
I
of
like
the first one. Let me see. Oh, they don't.
Yeah,
even,
they're making
they
another
don't even
one.
add that to the list. Shit.
Robin will.
I guess like this goes into the issue of games where like the human narrative, the like that dramatic component that makes you invested in the person is a bit harder because the way games do that is not so much through character development, but the players changing of like understanding of the game systems and their growth as players. So like those are two things that don't necessarily like vibe. Like I don't know if you can change that and put that in the script super well, unless you're talking about people who are experiencing that. Like I saw a documentary on how someone who in the Tekken fighting scene used Panda and trained for a year to get really good at Panda, but became like the champ. Like he beat up all these like renowned like Tekken fighters.
Oh, okay, so I could definitely see like a movie about about that within like the esports realm. With like I think Double Lift had like a little documentary about that. How his growth with League of Legends came to be.
You're
I'm not
talking about
familiar, but
Rangchu,
that could be a good
the
way of
Panda
taking
champion
it.
guy.
What do you say?
Rangchu, the Panda champion guy.
Yeah.
That guy?
Alright.
The one that surprised Harada. Harada's reaction was like, when he won, he's like, Panda? Seriously?
That's right. You were telling me how like no one plays Panda, and this guy decides to be the best Panda.
What will get you more hype? Playing as a character no one likes? Wrestling is a
It's
very good one
really
that you spend.
clever though, because like all the like top players are expecting to fight against each other, and this one dude out of nowhere comes with a panda. Nobody knows how to fight him because nobody expected this.
No one knows how to play against this guy. What do we do?
That's actually a really cool avenue to go down too, rather than just like a movie about the game itself. It's about the people interacting with the communities.
I think that could be a mini series though, because if it's too often as a movie, like there's only so much source material that you have. Like the indie game movie, where they showed 3 different perspectives. I think if they do that, that would be fine. But like if you do it too often, then it's gonna lose a lot of it. But let's actually go back to Resident Evil. I think a lot of the reason why the live action movies really work too is because they went with the number one important rule too, the rule of cool. And that's what they try to stick with a lot. Like that's why Resident Evil 1
a real trope.
Resident Evil 1 was partly a good movie, but they tried to be scary too. They had Cutman was like, look, are you scared? It's like, no. And then, and then it's like, kick, pa, 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 pa. It's like, oh, that's cool.
The awe factor, where you want some cool shit happening. That's what I liked about Final Fantasy 15 the most. That shit was just straight up cool, no matter how cringy like these their lines were. Like, fuck, this is some cool looking fights to look at.
And that's the thing that's different about video games. Video games can embody the rule of cool, but movies, they just gotta embrace it. Rather than being super serious, they can be like, hey, we're gonna have a guy literally slap nuts for like 20 minutes. Okay, that can be cool, but throw something actually funny.
Which game were you alluding to?
I don't know.
I would like to play that game. I would enjoy this.
Yeah, I need more context with this.
Is it a visual novel? I think that's not in my alley. Alex, you heard of that? Any visual novel about slapping nuts?
No, I think he's making a joke. I think you're taking this joke too seriously.
Yeah.
I think you should stop proceeding any further before exposing yourself.
I would like a game about slapping nuts. In fact, Kristen, are you down to make one?
General jousting, you can just play that. But yeah, like,
It sounds like an adult video game, just so you know.
The rule of cool should always be focused a lot of time. Well, not always, but if you're going for something ridiculous, embrace it. And that's what a lot of movies don't do. Like the
movies have done that. Besides the ones you mentioned. Besides the ones you mentioned.
Like video game movies, or just plain and simple like
adaptation movies? Like Alita handled it pretty cool.
That was an adaptation of like the comic.
A really old like 80s manga.
Yeah.
Like Doom kind of did it with the first person part. That was actually pretty cool in my opinion.
That's right, they had the first person part. Oh,
yeah,
that's funky.
and they embraced the rule of cool on that. But the rest of the movie they didn't.
Did they do that for Rampage?
There you go. Doom with the Rock who turned into like a demon or something with the BFG.
Wow.
Career switch between like acting and like wrestling.
This was like the Rock. Wait, was this before or after the Scorpion Rock though? The Mummy.
I think it was before. I think it was after.
Yeah, this Rock looks pretty young. Pretty young looking Rock here. This is his debut movie. Okay.
Like that would be. That's what I want for the new Doom movie to come out. Like, I want the rule of cool the whole time. I don't want, and I think they'll actually maybe do it, hopefully, because, the new game, 2016, it went with the rule of cool the whole entire time. And I really want the new movie to have the rule of cool and, just killing everything the whole entire time.
I could really see critics, like, jumping down, like, go on.
I had a caveat to that. I'm going to switch topics a little bit because I feel like that works for some projects, some games, but we're going to get a Mario like animated film from the people that made the Minion movies.
Are we?
Illumination.
We are. Illumination is going to make it. I know everyone's sad, cringing inside, but I feel like that really depends on the type of game you're using. Because when we look at it more like casual, like or something a little more friendly, I don't know how well that's going to translate.
I don't know how the game itself is going to translate, because I can't see that. I can like the people. I'm gonna go a little tiny bit back. The people who are making Castlevania, the directors just got penned to do a Legend of Zelda in the same style for animated series. And Legend of Zelda has a really fucking good lore and really good story and good background and stuff to work with. Mario, I don't know. You could do like Partners in Time or something like Rabbids has a decent story.
I can
I
see
just
a
wanna say-
Sonic
I wanna say
happening. Oh, I can see.
No, Sonic
happening
is
for
definitely
Mario.
doable, especially. No, Sonic is
Sonic
definitely
has
doable.
been in production though. This is the thing.
No, but like you can even make it better because if you go with the comic book like part of Sonic the Hedgehog, you're gonna have a really good film.
Yeah, I think we've discussed this multiple times, but Andrew, please go into that. I want you to actually go into this, like how the edgy Sonic comics, I feel would make for a very good game or movie. Go
Wait,
into it.
those
Andrew.
comics were edgy? I
Bruh.
I didn't know they were edgy.
Bruh,
Okay, so
Like Cold Steel the Hedgehog edgy, or just like
bruh, just Andrew, go.
Alright, so for those of you who don't know, Sonic the Hedgehog had a comic book series made by Archie Comics.
What's it called again?
They just Sonic the Hedgehog. It's called Archie Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, okay.
link it?
Continue. I'll
Link
put-
it,
I'll put
give me a
images.
second.
No,
Give me-
I'll put
Hold on.
images.
Okay,
You
good.
guys continue.
Okay, so anyways, I read the Sonic the Sonic the Hedgehog comics ever since I was young, and basically the way that the Sonic the Hedgehog comics went is a really complex geopolitical resistance building, government restructuring, worldwide heroism genre that went through every single piece of genre that you'll ever find in a story. It starts off with the original Sonic the Hedgehog film series that, if you remember, back in the day, it was basically. Have you guys ever saw the cartoon, the first one that was made? It's like Saturday morning Sonic the Hedgehog. It was an old.
Could have.
It was an old
Is it
cartoon.
is it the one where he's like, just say no?
So that's the first one. The first one that was made was called Sonic the Hedgehog. It was a TV series that was made for kids, and that basically that was more of a cartoon, like a Tom and Jerry-ish type of cartoon that they made for it. The second cartoon they made was a bit more serious one. It was basically a resistance thing against Dr. Ivo Robotnik, which we all know today as Dr. Eggman, before he did this entire name change. But basically, the story starts off there. So if I were to start chronologically with this, basically the world of Sonic the Hedgehog is an alternate Earth where a alien invasion basically renders the Earth inhospitable in a sense, but the alien's weapon kind of malfunctioned when it was trying to destroy the Earth, so instead made genetic difference between Homo sapiens and a new generation of species called Mobo sapiens, which is what we call the people from Sonic the Hedgehog. So basically animal humanoid hybrids, which basically explains how Sonic, Tails, and every other character in the series, how they exist. And they basically had to deal with an original human that was that basically managed to survive the entire alien bombing invasion, whatever. I'm gonna try to shorten this as fast as I can, but basically you now have Sonic the Hedgehog exist because of a mutated Earth, and they fight against one of the original humans, Dr. Ivo Robotnik. And Robotnik, unlike what you see him today as kind of this goofy mad scientist, he was an actual crazy mad scientist, like Hitler kind of guy. He actually had a design to take over the world and turn everything living into robots. So that was his big thing. He took animals and literally used a special machine that would transform their actual bodies into a robot, and then that robot would be one of his slaves. And then he would basically continuously do that to every single animal that he could find, and then they would have them hunt all the other animals that are still trying to escape his rule. And here comes Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog is this hero who actually manages to build a resistance with his friends and the remnants of the kingdom he was born in, the kingdom of Acorn, which had a princess and everything. It was kind of Mario-esque, so there's a bunch of colorful characters. They create a resistance against Dr. Robotnik, and Robotnik is actually trying to kill them. We're not trying to say that it's some goofy thing. He is literally sending everything he has to try to kill him. We're talking about war machines and a bunch of robots that we all knew as SWAT bots back in the day. And anyways, story progression progresses, they keep fighting. Eventually, the Resistance actually builds up enough of a force to actually challenge him head on, and using a bunch of things. This is pre-Chaos Emeralds too, so Chaos Emeralds weren't really a thing yet. In the comic books, until we deal with the multi-dimensional thing that happens later on. But eventually, they actually managed to win, and they actually killed Dr. Robotnik. He's dead. And as one of his backup plans that he actually had a robot that had his entire consciousness in him that basically boots up after his death, that would then assume his leadership position. And then that robot, as we now know it, became the new Dr. Eggman. And after it's very convoluted, but basically you have a resistance that defeats Dr. Robotnik, who was basically the emperor of the world because he actually managed to make everything to his personal robot slave. So you have a resistance finally wins, and then they create a new world from it. So you have humans and these Sonic, human Sonic, hybrid animals who basically try to create a new government from the remnants after the defeat of the evil Dr. Robotnik. They rebuilt society. They reconstructed the cities, hubs for trade, and then this is where all the geopolitics happened. And then, of course, Sonic helps his quote-unquote girlfriend, Sally Acorn, actually rebuild her kingdom, the Kingdom of Acorn. They become a nation, and then, of course, then after that you go into a few comic book strips of politics where they're trying to give people the rights, because it is a monarchy. So you have a king rule over people, and the citizens don't really have enough rights to do as they please. So they basically had this entire political thing where they had to battle it out between the royal family and the citizenship. And of course, Sonic was more the defender of the citizens while still trying to enforce the will of the king. And then, not to mention, there was actually a rift where Tails, his parents, were one of these kingdoms generals who decided to fight for the people as opposed to bow down to the king. So there was actually a point in time when Sonic and Tails were enemies, and they actually fought geopolitically, trying to secure the rights and rule of the kingdom. And then after that, you deal with the re-rise of Dr. Eggman, who basically creates a new robot fleet that starts an entire world war with everyone else in the world. And then
this has been more than enough.
And then he basically
one movie.
Yeah, basically, this is a long story book, and I haven't even gotten to the point where he breaks dimensions, so you have to deal with the multiverse. And then after that, he basically destroys the multiverse by collapsing it upon itself, because he tried to basically reset history, and then that basically tried to follow the game's storyline, and then of course him fucking that up badly, and then after that, and then everything just messing up, and new reality basically being created.
It's too much now. I think
it is.
This is basically Shonen Jump-itis, where
that's why I
think we just introduced the Sonic Cinematic Universe, guys. So we got to get this going.
Yeah.
There were so many ups and downs in that, not convoluted at all.
No, I know. I was trying to fast track it, but obviously it was.
This has an actual story compared to the original Sonic games. This would be good content.
Weird.
Yeah, you think it was a simple game, right? No, Sonic the Hedgehog was a huge comic masterpiece. It's just you just got to read every single one. I actually need to remember how many comic books there were.
It's a long-winded way to say I like furries.
God. Speaking of furries,
not from your perspective, but honestly, I prefer a game that goes into all of that, because that was way cooler. That sounded way more dope.
Right? Way cooler than just having a hedgehog run left to right.
You didn't even get to Chaos Emeralds yet, so that I gotta want to know more.
Yeah, and Chaos Emeralds basically become a power source that everyone wanted to take over, and you had a giant thing between Sonic's kingdom, the human kingdom.
Okay.
It's 200. Okay. I know, it's 200, last thing, it's 290 issues, and it lasted for 14 years. That's why there's a lot.
Yeah, this conversation lasts 14 years.
Yeah, pretty much. There's a lot. Anyway, you guys can catch up on that, but either way, it's fine.
Andrew is a huge Sonic fanatic, so it's kind of like for you, Alex, with Destiny 2, if you start Andrew on Sonic, he won't stop. So... Sorry, Dax.
Where were we?
Saying,
Do you want me to start on what's going on for
No.
Shadowkeep and if I do?
No.
Can Destiny 2? Can the Destiny's lore be a movie?
Yes, I actually want that.
Yes.
I actually want that to be a thing, and I can go along with that as well. But I don't want to start, so I will leave that.
Don't start either of us, but yes, it could be.
I would like
it could
that,
be an
yeah.
extended universe. It could do something like Dead Space. I mean, they have comics for like Osiris, but I'm not
Well,
gonna
I
go
could-
further into that.
but yeah,
I could
but
see something
the
with
comics,
the divergence that was mentioned earlier, that we could do multiple stories or different little shorts here and there.
Yeah,
for
I
different
think
characters.
Destiny 2 because of
I'd
how
like
big
to
the
see
universe
Twilight
is.
Gap,
Mhm.
like kind of I'd like to see Twilight Gap and the Battle of Six Fronts, like in a comic or some form of like shorts. Because we only saw
I
that.
don't
in
know
the
much
opening
about
day.
the overall story, but I want to see
Those are
Kate's
big
son.
fights. Kid doesn't have a son.
Well, quote unquote
See,
son.
we're
yeah.
getting into the rest of the Destiny lore. Kid doesn't have a son.
No, okay. Basically, Destiny had a comic book. Yes, it's pretty short, and then it was
Yeah.
actually pretty awesome. We wish they had more of that, and they could basically turn that into movie or a live action or animated. It would work. Basically, is our point.
Yeah, I think
Because
like,
I'm-
this is building off
I'm
of
looking
what
through the
Dax said
book.
before too. Like, you could take the world of Destiny 2, or just Destiny, just take some other Guardian, someone that's not associated with the main games, and just make their own little movie, right?
Oh well,
That
then
would
that
be a
brings me
good
to this
idea, I
part.
think.
There are 3 parts where that could work for Destiny, and there was one that had to be with Fallen working with Guardians. There's another one that deals with There's another one that deals with what you just said, the politics with Osiris, and then there's a third one where you can actually go with one of the space emperors who basically want to control us. But I don't want to get into the details for that. But it's just a really interesting storyline that could really bring up
You could
bring
also
up the
do
game.
the raid on
because we want to know
Crota.
more.
It seems like that's might be what they were doing for Monster Hunter. Like I know in the Wikipedia that it's saying it's going to be announced. So that's the only thing I can imagine when it comes to Monster Hunter. There's no like direct player, right? So you can definitely use like some outside story or like use that as a setting for like a given character that you could create the relationship with.
So the
Yeah,
Monster Hunter
that's
movie,
got it
from
pretty
what
much on
I'm
point.
gathering so far for the Monster Hunter movie, it looks like we're gonna have modern day soldiers transported into the Monster Hunter world, where
Oh fuck
they're
yeah!
going to.
The same actress as Resident Evil.
Yeah, if you look at the images right now,
Yep.
so, they have like U.S. soldiers out in the desert,
Ish.
gets teleported into Monster Hunter world, like different dimensions, and now they're like, oh, this guy with a sword
Holy
is better
fuck.
at fighting monsters than fighting them with guns, so let's all switch to big ass weapons.
I mean, they do have guns in Monster Hunter though still, so they better.
Well, no, I mean, look at her. She already switched.
They learn how to use a bow gun.
Yeah, look at her. She switched over to a bow. She threw away her gun.
I'm gonna make a sword out of this. Oh, okay, you had me. Then you lost it because now it just looks,
I mean, it looks true
'Cause
to the source material. It's like that's a
In a
that's
way.
a bone sword. That's a bone great sword. That works, but like
doesn't look that.
we'll
great.
see. Well, we will have to see.
What, Isekai Monster Hunter?
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. This is Isekai Monster Hunter. That's actually the best way to describe it. It looks like it's just gonna be Isekai Monster Hunter.
I just feel like some person at Capcom's like telling what Monster Hunter is, and some executive at the end of the table is just like, we need to bring someone like modern, like a soldier. Soldier knows what to do in this. We need modern, and it's just like, why?
What's trending today?
really
We,
did
have
have to.
Monster Hunter and we have Isekai. Let's put them together. That's a good idea.
Lol.
So that's why we're having Isekai Monster Hunter, and I don't know. It's gonna be good or bad. I don't know.
I think it's fine because you're bringing something out from average comfort zone, and you generally can put the perspective of the audience and the people who don't understand the world.
Yeah, have us
Oh,
relate
yeah.
to it, I guess, with these modern soldiers.
Yeah, like we understand soldiers, not fully, but we understand what
Yeah.
their typical job is. But we'll see that they're out of their comfort zone, maybe even scared, that kind of thing, and they overcome their fear.
I mean, they made that mistake though with Godzilla. Like, we got too much human interaction when we just really wanted to see monster shit. I'm sure everyone that's interested in a
I
Monster
agree.
Hunter title movie will want to see mostly monster hunting.
It didn't feel.
I want to see a really, really good CGI Tigrex just run across the desert and go.
You want to see the cats, Cat
I like
Oh, I want to see a Yes, I want to see a live action Palico. Yo,
like a feline.
bring on the Detective Pikachu designer. Have him do the Palicos. I'd be so down for that. I'd be so
Yeah,
down
that would
for
work.
that. Oh.
And then like when it talks, it just has subtitles.
That that'd be great. Yes, I don't want a talking Palico. I want a Palico that.
They need to have Jake Gyllenhaal.
That just meows incessantly.
No, I don't think you even need a talking Palico because none of the Palicos actually talk
No,
about.
that's what we're saying. So it's like, you know,
That's what we're saying.
if they're like,
He'll be voiced by Seth Rogen.
Oh
Best actor ever. Did I ever tell you how much I love Seth Rogen? Dude, he was in the new Lion King movie. I noticed immediately. I'm like, why is he here?
oh, did you watch the new Lion King movie? Is it good?
Yeah.
It's a great video game adaptation, I think.
Yeah, let's not bring it up. Anyways, Seth Rogen.
There you go.
There's one, I like that there's like a lot of options. With the World of Warcraft movie, I think we could definitely use MMO settings.
So the World of
games
Warcraft
like
movie
Monster
is
Hunter
very...
would be good, and also maybe Final Fantasy 14.
So the World of Warcraft movie is actually very interesting since, like...
It's not really World of Warcraft, though. It's Warcraft.
It's called Warcraft, yeah.
mythos.
But yeah, it's in the Warcraft universe. It is the highest
Excuse me? That's not the way you pronounce it.
God damn it.
No, it is the highest grossing video game movie to date at $433 million, but it has a 28% critical rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, has anyone actually watched Warcraft? I did.
I did.
I don't play the games.
I just wanted to see like orc shit. I wanted to see
You wanted to see the orc titties.
I wanted to see Shrek in his natural habitat.
So was it like a standout movie? Like,
It definitely, I thought it took like a lot of elements. I never played World of Warcraft, so I assumed it took a lot of like inspiration and elements from from Warcraft and its setting. Not too many things though, like besides like the orcs and like the overall conflict maybe. But again, they took a lot of liberties with that movie.
Yeah, I need to watch it because I know like it blew up in China, but that's all I know. And that in
Chinese
America
love a lot of
didn't do
things.
well.
A lot of things are blowing up in China right now.
Yeah.
I see what you did.
I thank you.
But
Alright,
yeah.
I wanted to bring up something too. So I think that, as I said, the whole entire doing things different can work well rather than focusing on the main plot. Like, I read one Dead Space book. I can't remember what it was called. I think it was Martyr. And I actually really enjoyed that book. It was very cool because they didn't have Isaac at all. They didn't even have space. They had the beginning, and they introduced the character Altman, which is what the whole entire Unitology religion was based off of in the game. And I thought that one. I thought it was really cool because they brought out a different aspect that we never knew. That kind of thing is good, in movies. It can have like, oh, what is this? And it brings it out. Sure, it is in a sense bad for full theatrical release movies because you have to be a fan. But at the same time too, that's kind of how that's what they need to do in a sense. Like, if they work for general audiences, they're not going to get a lot of people. If they work for specifically fans, they're going to get marginalized people. It depends. But finding that medium is the hardest thing that they're ever going to have. And I think that's why there is hardly a medium for video game movies.
Yeah, we gotta wait to go before these get good.
Like, I don't think anybody, whenever they hear a video game, like, who wanted to immediately go see the Sonic movie? Like, I want to see it because I want to see how bad it was. That's it.
I want to watch up Sonic. I'd be excited.
I know what
I
person
wanted to see the
wants it,
Pokemon
Andrew.
movie. I wanted to see the Pokemon movie because it had Pokemon. I wanted to see how cool it could be. But, like, nobody goes into movies for grade A films right now. And unfortunately, that's... I don't think they're going to ever fix that. We have a lot of people here now. Wow.
And that's really sad, though. Like, I agree with you. Like, people go into movies, and honestly, I don't know if you guys want to talk about Uwe Boll, the guy who made a lot of video game movies. But essentially
for tax
money, yeah.
purposes.
Like I don't know if you guys have watched The Producers, but The Producers essentially do the same idea. Like, they want to make some bad production to make money off of the tax money from people shitting on their bad production.
They can't really do it now anymore, so I think that's like kind of moot now.
Yeah.
I understand the whole entire
But
aspect of the history of it.
Yeah, it was a thing. It's like you said, it's moot now, but it was a thing, and that's why, video game movies just have a bad rap on them. But you're right, like people don't go to video game movies because they want to see a good movie. They just want to take part in, or they just want to continue consuming the brand that they have come to like. Yeah.
That's it. They want to laugh at it. I want to watch Sonic to laugh at it. If they don't make me laugh at it, I'm gonna be severely disappointed.
Yeah, well, to wrap up, at least on my end, I'm giving it a few more years before it breaks that threshold of video game movies being always good.
I think it will take a while because it took a long while for comic movies to be good.
That's true.
Like,
that's very true.
30 years.
Remember the beginning Batman movies? The freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze. Those lines were terribly.
Oh man.
I never leave the Batcave without my Batman gold card. Who could afford that? Bruce Wayne? Nah, it's not him.
I mean, they rebooted Fantastic Four like 3 times.
No, yeah, they did. I still like the original, to be honest.
The original Batman?
No,
Like Adam West.
Fantastic Four.
The one with Jessica Alba? No, just something. It's a chick.
I think you're thinking about. Wait,
well, yeah, it was. It had the guy who played. What's his name? The guy who played Captain America before he was Captain America.
That had Jessica Alba.
Chris Evans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was
Chris
it.
Evans.
It's a Chris.
Yes.
Chris Evans. Thank you.
Chris
That's
Evans
his name.
and Jessica Alba were in the first Fantastic Four movie.
Are you sure it's Jessica Alba?
It is indeed Jessica Alba.
That is indeed a Jessica Alba.
I'm very disappointed I know that name.
Well,
For research purposes, of course.
Right.
I mean, Adam West, come on. Yeah, I wasn't talking about anything else.
I mean, yeah. So like the upcoming video game movies, Sonic, Monster Hunter. I think we have an Uncharted coming up in 2020. That's what it's saying. Yeah. What do you guys hope it can do to be good? Like based on what we know right now, what can they do? Like I know Dax just wants to laugh at Sonic, but what do you think it can do to be good?
For me, it's definitely the character building, because that, to me, Uncharted games aren't about the story. It's about the amazing characters that they have. I love their banter, and I need that for the whole entire movie. I need wicked banter. I need them making fun of each other for small things. That's what made the game so great, and I want that. I would love Nathan Fillion to make fun of whoever's going to play Sully, and Sully to laugh at Nathan Fillion because Nathan Fillion has to play Nathan Drake. Have you guys seen that short film?
Yeah, I remember seeing it. It was cool. I like it a lot. I do think that the idea of the Tom Holland, like young Nathan Drake Sully adventures would be kind of fun. I think that's a cool way of expanding characters.
Yeah.
But also kind of doing something separate, divergent of the actual games.
Yeah, like instead of focusing on those paths, they go back in time to, maybe their first, they did their first job actually.
First heist.
I think they actually did that in the game, The Golden Road.
I think the same vein of upcoming and Divergence, isn't Witcher coming out on Netflix?
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
I heard it was actually based on the books.
But it's more focused on the books than the actual game, so take it for what it is.
They Divergent, because who the fuck reads books? And it's definitely Witcher.
Have you guys looked at any? Wait, it's not out yet, right? Or
not yet.
Have you guys looked at some of the images? Because
nope.
he's
I just know I don't like Henry Cavill.
He's
as this guy.
His beard. I mean,
I can't I can't accept Henry Cavill.
Is that the guy who's Batman? I mean, Superman?
This is the guy who's
Yep,
Superman.
that's
It looks like him so badly.
It looks like Superman.
But who would you want for Geralt?
Geralt?
That is a good question, but definitely someone that could rock a beard better.
Wait, no, this actually looks
The
better.
Rock?
I want
I would love that.
Kevin
if we're
Hart.
gonna have The Rock as
Someone Kevin
Geralt,
Hart.
and just fucking like spearing people and fucking like rock bottling people. Oh,
So
I would love that.
I want like Kevin Hart, The Rock, and Seth Rogen all playing at the same time, and you cut between different takes of
Oh,
each
yes.
different character.
Everyone
And
is
for Roach, Kevin Hart, and then it's just Seth Rogen making.
I want Jon Snow to do it.
Yeah,
I want for Roach Gilbert Godfrey.
Oh dear God. Creative choice.
I want Danny DeVito as the Witcher.
Danny DeVito.
I would love Danny DeVito in a movie game. He would be the best.
Oh,
But his reaction to him trying to be Detective Pikachu in the video games was, "What the fuck is a Pikachu?"
oh, you guys, guess you know what? I just realized the one series that we have not mentioned that would be a good video game, or would be a good video game movie, is stuff from Kojima. The one man who
No.
actually wants to be a
Nah,
game.
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
think
no,
so.
no. No, I don't
He
think
wants to be a
so.
movie director. Why do you not think so? Why do you not think Kojima would make good movies?
I think Kojima has his head too far up his butt.
Whoa there.
Do we know what Death Stranding is?
Nope.
Oh yeah, okay.
David
There
Lynch
you
is
go.
great. I love David Lynch. He's great. Freaking
Cronenberg
Twin
too.
Great. I haven't watched a new season. Tell me. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not huge. Like, sure, Metal Gear Solid 3. I love Metal Gear Solid 3, but like, I don't think Kojima would do great because, you know, he has a lot of people behind him too. It's not just Kojima. Like, I think he would be masturbating himself every time he gets into the director's chair too often to even direct. He's like,
Can you do that in a tweet? Like, the reason
am-
Hideo Kojima game is a Hideo Kojima game because I made it.
literally, right when
somewhere.
Hideo Kojima would be in his own movie, he would ejaculate and say, "Had you waiting, huh?"
Well, how? Okay, if we're
Silent Hills. Yeah,
yeah,
that
video
was
game.
totally his game.
Because you
Yeah.
have Junji Ito, you have a weeaboo and a westaboo, so you have both sides of the corner. Like, I think Silent Hills would have done well. But if we're gonna go to talk about Kojima, his giant infatuation with movie actors, I'd say Mads Mikkelsen for girl would be actually pretty good.
That would be. Wait, I think I saw an image of that. Hold on.
Yeah. I remember the actor that was posted on Reddit. Someone was talking about the one doing the announcement for The Witcher's TV series, and I'm like, that'd be much better because he just looks a lot better than butt chin Superman saving the world.
But
I'm kidding,
Superman, fuck.
He looks. Well, Superman has a butt chin. He just looks more Nordic, and like kind of that like Polish Nordic kind of like look. And I'm looking at Henry Cavill as him, and it's just like a giant ass butt chin. It can't even the beard can't even cover it up. The butt chin is just concave into the overall hair.
Damn, that's a really thorough image, and I'm not even looking online.
Wait. Oh, here we go. This is what people think Mads Mikkelsen would look like as Geralt. It looks good. This looks really good.
It's always the eyebrows, dude. I'm sorry. It's always the.
It looks like Matt Nicholson in Geralt cosplay.
Get me someone. Get me someone that. It looks like Matthew McConaughey.
No, God, no.
Give me someone with the perfect eyebrow and like eyebrow width.
There's another one that says Alessandro Prezzosi.
You gotta have the perfect nose. You gotta have
Perfect
Owen
eyebrows.
Wilson.
Owen Wilson as Geralt. Oh god.
Come on, he has a perfect nose for the film. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Kojima doing movies, but like have to be very, very like put on the leash. Because I mean, what Death Stranding is right now, we kind of understand it a bit, but it's still confusing as fuck. He's a
What
giant
part about
movie
it isn't
buff.
straightforward to you, Alex?
Just the overall I mean, okay, so we're gonna go on a tiny tangent for Death Stranding. I get the idea of death, beached whales, and the fact that humans are stuck in purgatory, and that as he introduces more characters, that's fine. It's just like the crypticness is how Kojima normally handles like his overall stories. I mean, even from Metal Gear, fucking cryptic as shit. Although, granted, I've only played a couple titles, so I'm not a full authority on that. But just I don't know. Like Death Stranding could be a movie, but then at the same time,
I mean, I don't get the babies part. They got really.
The babies part has to be. Oh, the babies has to do with the fact that like those are the tethers to the like. See, it's very what is the word for it? Not convoluted.
Avant-garde or something.
No,
It is
don't
avant-garde.
not have avant-garde and Kojima in the same sentence.
I don't fucking know. Just two things I imagine.
No,
That's
Very weird
objectively
things.
somewhere
They're
just
both on a
saying
level of. The similarity is that there are two things I don't know the meaning of when it
You
comes
can
to.
only jerk off Kojima so much. Stop it.
I don't know what either of those words mean. Hideo Kojima could mean anything.
it's a synonym for pompous, but I don't remember.
Kojima has now ejaculated from hearing avant-garde in the same sentence.
I guess that leash got.
No, like if you say if like it'd be like the Holden Caulfield, like basically how he acts in his attitude, but I don't know the word for it. Pretentious.
Egotistical.
Pretentious. It's very pretentious. It's very pretentious in some manners. I mean,
Gonorrhea.
God damn.
God
That's
dang
not
it.
the word we
The
need.
baby has to do the baby. No, we already have it. It's pretentious. It's kind of pretentious in ways like the baby
What the fuck is that?
is sort of the tether to the netherworld. So imagine if it's like a string and a rope, and the baby lets you like stay in reality. It's super fucking confusing, and like it requires someone to actually play it through and maybe watch like a video like essay like Bife or Mylan Games for like lore. But it's just like it would have to be an anthology series, and you would have to do again like sort of a mini series or like something like a prequel to build it, because you could make a movie out of it, but it'd be just like fucking like super
You'd have to get the guy that made.
I don't have time to explain with time to explain. Basically,
You have to get the guy that
Get it
made
there.
like Midsommar or something to make sense of these as a movie. Those really artistic fools.
he's just like it's like one of those like really like artistic people that just like have really good stories, but like can't explain it properly, and then the audience is just confused as fuck. And the small stuff that people is like he's a genius.
He is a genius.
Kojima brushes teeth? He's a genius!
You mean Kojima brushes teeth? Okay, we need to analyze every like single follicle on his toothbrush. We need to figure out how long he's been brushing his teeth for. Figure out every single toothpaste he's used. There are clues in there to tell us what Death Stranding is fucking about.
Oh my
We can
god,
figure this shit out.
What does this mean?
The guy has the gall to say there's more hints for fucking Death Stranding in like the first trailer, like 8 months after.
That's right. He did do that. I remember there were like videos made where like there were people like comparing the first trailer with the second trailer and time matching it together and like overlapping it on top of each other to be like, there's images here. People are fucking doing that. No, but yeah, gentlemen, that was a good podcast. I think we're at the end of our time. Does anyone have any closing statements?
Don't like Kojima.
Don't let Kojima make movies. Is that what our moral is?
And
Okay.
read the Sonic the Hedgehog comics. They make good movies.
You can let Kojima make movies, just let someone else direct most of the thing and just let him talk in the background.
No, let him masturbate.